Welcome back. The cultural dialogue between Egypt and Russia arguably dates back to before the 20th century. 19th century writer Leo Tolstoy and Alexander Pushkin borrowed from the Arab literary canon, not specifically the 1001 Nights, in their work. Many of the major contributors to Egyptian cinema and theater studied in Russia or were deeply influenced by Russian mentors. In ballet and painting, a similar connection is also clear. Today, we are honored to host our distinguished guest, Mr. Ahmed Salah, a writer and a Russian-English translator. Hello, sir, and welcome to Nile Cruise.
Mr. Ahmed, a very good day, and it's a pleasure always to have you with us on Nile Cruise, of course. And we start off with asking you about why you choose the Russian language to study. Why?
Actually, I finished studying in the Ain Shams University, Faculty of Arts, English department. That was
Ain Shams University, Faculty of Arts. You said, huh?
Yes, English department first, and through studying English literature and translations from different literature into English, I get acquainted to the Russian literature. And I remember Dr. Radu Ashur, the famous writer and professor, he used to tell us about Russian literature, many stories and feedback, and she was actually motivating us to read more of Russian literature. She told us about Chekhov, about Lermontov, about Tolstoy, about Dostoevsky. So this gives us some motivation into reading more of Russian literature. And after 5 years of finishing my studies at the English department, I decided to travel to Russia to read the originals.
Where in Russia? Sorry to interrupt you. Where in Russia?
To Moscow.
Moscow.
Yes.
A wonderful city.
I decided to travel to Moscow to learn Russian language and literature and read these great works in Russian.
So you studied Russian deeply, huh?
Yes, yes. I was motivated actually because when I first read the translations from Russian literature into English, I got fascinated by the stories, the ideas and the places, the architecture, and the different situations that actually make a true-to-life portrait of people from outside and from inside.
Studying English literature motivated you to go to Russia and study Russian, culture and language?
You said because you were influenced by the
translations.
Yeah, translations.
You were
yes.
influenced by the translation in Russian.
Translations from Russian into English.
Yes.
We study not only English literature, we study translations into English from different languages.
Yeah.
So we get acquainted with Russian culture, we get acquainted with Japanese, with Swedish, and with African literature. So, but actually, most of all these, I was more attracted to Russian literature.
Okay, Mr. Ahmed, the Russian Culture Center plays an important role in promoting Russian culture in Egypt, of course. What is your evaluation to the role played by the foreign culture centers in general and the Russian Center in particular?
Okay, first of all, I want to talk about this place. We're here today. The Russian Cultural Center personally played a great role in my life because I used to come here when I was just an adolescent, and I used to go there to watch in the theater, to watch plays, to watch movies, and to attend events, and to the library to borrow books and see different newspapers, and that actually played a great role in building up my personal knowledge. So I think this is the core of the role of any Russian, of any cultural center. They represent the culture of the country. They introduce this culture, the art. They open some sort of dialogue with people. And the Russian center in specific, especially during the Soviet era, was actually very much involved into the Egyptian society, and they were supporting so many activities, and so many people, students went to Russia to study through scholarships offered by the Soviet Union. So they came here, they made the Egyptian circus, they made the Academy of Arts, they started to build up some sort of artistic productions, and many directors, film directors were studied in Russia, and they made great films like Hussein Kamal, like so many different people.
You chose to be translator, of course, Russian and English translator. It's not an easy job. How do you manage to combine between different language and to be a translator?
Okay, actually this dates back to my childhood. I noticed that when I was still young, I was attracted to any foreign word. I used to catch any foreign word and try to know its meaning and how it's pronounced. That was through films and sometimes radio broadcasts. So even before studying any foreign language, I used to have a good lexicon before studying. I got so many French words, so many English words, but for the Russian language, actually, that was not available for me. That came later after finishing the college. And because we are used to have French films, we used to have English films more than Russian films. So it's some kind of an innate motivation into, it's a desire to study the language, and it's continuous. A continuous urge to know other languages, to know other cultures. When I grow up, I started to read after gaining some good knowledge basis in the language. I started to read children's stories, and then more complicated sorts of texts. Then when I joined the English department at Ain Shams University, I started being trained as a translator, and this I found it actually very interesting. It's not just like work, but it's very, very interesting. So it was some kind of practicing a hobby. So when you do something that you love, it's very interesting. You feel the value.
Of course, you succeed in it.
Yes. And then time goes on, and I started to work as a professional translator, translating technical texts and legal and different types of texts. And then I started to focus on literary texts and artistic content. And after studying Russian, I started to translate modern Russian literature. And when you get good reactions from the readers, you are more and more motivated to introduce more writers.
So you get feedback?
Yes, of course.
Where do you get the feedback from exactly? And I want to ask you something with regards to feedback. You are discussing translating, and you are a very important writer. So do you write in Arabic, or do you write in Russian, or do you write in both, or do you only...
I write in Arabic.
And then you translate it into a Russian?
No, I write in Arabic, I write in English directly. I write in Arabic, I write directly in English. Now I write directly into Russian.
Yeah, now you write directly into Russian,
yes.
And you send your books to Russia, or they're read here at the Culture Center?
I publish essays, actually.
Really?
I write essays about different topics, more or less related to art and culture and literature. And lately I started to publish in Russian newspapers.
Chekhov, this wonderful statue, of course, that's behind us.
Yes, yes.
And he is an amazing, of course, a writer, and he used to write short literature.
Yes.
Of course, you tell us more about him. But how did he inspire you and influence you as one of the most important writers that are witnessed in Russia?
Yes, actually, Anton Chekhov is one of the most important, not only short story writers, but also as a playwright. He has great plays that were translated into different languages and presented on the theater. in England, in America, in different places in the world. And he actually influenced
Yusuf
very
Idris?
famous playwrights, just like Bernard Shaw. Sorry?
No, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
And Bernard Shaw himself confirmed this fact that the plays of Chekhov influenced him so much to produce his masterpieces. As a short story writer, he is for the fact of being concise, because he is always trying to summarize a whole lifetime in just few lines. So he excelled in this, and he is known as the master of short story. Everyone who is starting to formulate his career as a writer or even translator should read Anton Chekhov, because you learn how he...
Sir, it seems that you do not only read, you are indulged in the story, because the way you're describing,
Of course.
you are indulged
Chekhov,
in the story itself.
Because
Yes.
and also Yusuf Idris, of course, renowned Egyptian writer, was
Yes.
influenced by Chekhov
Yes.
and everything he did in
Yes.
theater and his
And
writing.
sometimes they call him the Arab Chekhov.
The Arab Chekhov.
Yes, yes.
They call Yusuf Idris the Arab Chekhov
Yes.
of what?
He's like him.
Like Chekhov.
Yes.
Yusuf
yes,
Idris.
Yes, yes. And even the audience, when people read his short stories, just like the death of an employee, this is one of his most famous short stories. When you talk to anyone, actually my generation and the older generation, they all know his short stories by heart. Many of them have watched either on this theater or in different theaters in Egypt and the Arab world, his plays.
Sir, maybe I asked this question today because I was surprised by the answer of some guests today that Russian and Egyptian culture are close.
Sorry?
Russian and Egyptian culture both are close.
Mm-hmm.
In what way, from your own point of view?
Actually, let's start with the Egyptian history. The Egyptian history actually is just like a treasure for anyone in the world. When you speak about philosophy, when you speak about art, when you speak about architecture, you should first talk about Egypt. So Egypt is the idol for everyone who is taking a career in art or culture. And everybody should know the Egyptian history to start building his own knowledge base, his character. So as different other countries, the Russians were influenced by or fascinated by the Egyptian history, by the Egyptian monuments, the story of religion in ancient Egypt, and many Russians used to come to visit Egypt to see this great history. And even in the Coptic time, many Russian Christians used to visit Egypt also to know the places where different events happened, where such architecture built. And there was even immigration waves from Russia into Egypt in different times. And this started in the 19th century. These people were settled in Egypt, in different places, in Cairo, in Alexandria, and many of them started to stay forever in Egypt. And I suppose the Russian community in Egypt is not a small one, and they are very active. They used Egypt as their second country. And of course, the Egyptian heritage and especially the pharaonic history influenced so many artists and men of letters in Russia, just like Pushkin, Gumilev, Lev Tolstoy. So many great people in Russia adapted ideas from the Egyptian culture. And then, you know, the relationship between cultures is a sort of dialogue. You say something, I answer. I take something from you, and then I add my touch, and then give it back to you. So it's a mutual relationship, give and take relationship. So when there was a kind of renaissance in Russia, starting from the 17th century, the time of Peter Purvey, there was huge artistic production, in culture, and even in education, in technology, in industrialization. So Russia started to be a giver, to give a hand to Egypt, to help Egypt building the high dam.
This happened, of course, under the auspices and, of course, of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his keenness on international relations with all countries, upon which is Russia one of them.
Yes, yes, but this is recently. But I'm talking about even
You're
in
talking
history,
back history,
yes,
yeah.
back history. During the Soviet Union, Russia gave Egypt a hand building the high dam, and it was a great push to Egypt to develop. And Russia helped Egypt building the Egyptian Circus and the Academy of Arts. So many professors came from Russia to start teaching Egyptians drama and different things. So the relationship was tagged with close relationship, close friendship, based on respect, based on fraternity, based on mutual interests. And of course, I'm confirming what Rana has just said, that now it's reaching its peak, the relationship between, thanks to the efforts of the Egyptian government and the Egyptian leadership, the relationship is now going to its peak.
Sir, let me ask you about let me ask you about the writer who most inspired you in both cultures, in Egypt and in Russia.
Actually, I think Naguib Mahfouz is one of the Egyptian writers that inspires me. In addition to Taha Hussein, in addition to Yusuf Idris, and many different others. But I'm speaking about those who are at the top of the list, yes. In Russia, Chekhov, of course, Nikolai Gogol, Lermontov, and Turgenev, and Dostoevsky.
Okay, sir, how far did Russian culture influence our art on stage through small and big screens?
As I just mentioned, there was a great influence from Russia, especially through the bridge that was built between Russia and Egypt through the students who immigrated to Russia, through scholarships offered by the Russian government. They learned painting, they learned, and I have so many friends who studied in Russia and became famous painters when they came back to Egypt, like Omar Fayoumi and many others. In cinema, you have Hussein Kamal, the one who made great films. In theater, you have many different directors who studied in Russia and came back to make great plays. In literature, you get so many figures like Ahmed al-Khamisi, for instance, and even Naguib Mahfouz, the great Egyptian Egyptian writer who won Nobel Prize in literature, was deeply influenced by Russian literature. Of course, as Rana mentioned, Yusuf Idris too was influenced by Anton Chekhov, and he is one of our greatest writers. So the influence of Russian culture and those who managed to borrow so many know-hows and experience from Russia into Egypt enriched the Egyptian culture with great production. And who could actually forget the films of Hussein Kamal, for instance? Who could forget the great short stories of Yusuf Idris? So thanks to culture builds a continuous, non-ending dialogue that helps different parties to develop and to learn from each other.
And I have a question.
Yes, what was the Russian book that you translated to Arabic that made a big hit as, of course, an influential, as a translator in Russian, of course, and of course, English literature, and we have with us someone that we have to appreciate now.
Of the Nobel laureate, Svetlana Alexievich. This is the one who won Nobel Prize in 2015. It was called Chernobyl Prayer. And actually it gained instant success and became a bestseller since then. Actually you told me how I know the feedback of people. The publisher is always telling me the feedback of the readers who come to buy the book.
Of course.
And he's telling me that the readers from different countries, Arab countries, are asking what is the new books of Ahmed. So
Mr. Ahmed Salahuddin, we really enjoyed talking to you today, a Russian and English translator. Thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Nile Cruise.
My pleasure. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure, sir. You're joining us in Nile Cruise and, of course, in Zoom In. It's always a pleasure joining us in every program in Nile TV. Thank you very much for being with us today, Nile Cruise, sir, and thank you for your informative knowledge. Dear viewers, stay tuned. We'll be back again.